My name is TJ Hanafi. I teach a class of 9th and 10th graders at the International School in Bellevue, Washington. So over the next 2 days, my students are going to read a very important text, Letter from Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King Jr. They're going to work collaboratively in groups to analyze the text and explore its central idea. They'll present their findings to their class. They'll engage in a class-wide Socratic seminar discussion. And then they'll do some argumentative writing where they consider the ideas the King wrote about and bring in their own views as well. When I start the day, the first thing I do is present a question to the students. Okay, welcome to class. Our question for today is, how can a writer craft her or his language to develop a main idea and reach an audience? Let's have a quick refresher of some of the context of the reading. We talked about this a little bit last time. What was going on in 1963 that caused Dr. King to be sitting in that jail cell writing this letter?
Jim Crow laws.
Okay, so what were Jim Crow laws?
They were the laws to do with segregation between blacks and whites.
Before students arrive, they should have read Dr. King's Letter from Birmingham Jail and used a strategy that we have called metacognitive markers, or just thinking notes. So your homework was to read through and use the thinking notes. So we didn't just want highlighted text, we wanted some of those particular thinking notes for your reactions to it. So let's start with the last one there, just something that was confusing. Did anybody put down a double question mark because it raised a question you wanted clarified today, something that was confusing to you?
Well, I was just wondering if that was also, like, if you don't know, like, what certain words mean.
Sure, absolutely.
So it's on the third page in the third paragraph, and I don't really know how to say it. It's like Z-E-I-T.
Zeitgeist.
Yes,
right.
word.
Anybody here familiar with the term zeitgeist? What they do is they mark on the text significant areas and also their reaction. So what is something I had a positive reaction to? What raised a question for me?
So on the first page on the very last paragraph, it says, "It is rather strange and paradoxical to find us consciously breaking laws." So was that basically like, do people naturally break laws, or?
I really enjoy working with 9th and 10th graders because they engage in the ideas and not just the task. I really expect them to spend a lot of time considering some of these challenging ideas about when is it a just act to break a law. I want you to write down, what do you think King's main idea is? What's the central idea he's trying to express in Letter from Birmingham Jail? Next, I have students get into small groups, and I have pre-selected these groups with tasks that are differentiated for their skill level in analysis of informative texts. I want students to be able to find those elements of the text, those specific moments that help build towards that big idea.
I feel like this whole paragraph is just like really like bluntly challenging them.
Through the letter, he's trying to tell them that he's not going to stop until equal rights are realized. But I think what he's really like also trying to say in the letter is like why he's doing all of it. So that would be logos, right? So.
The reason why I have the groups differentiated is to center on their strengths. Some students are really ready to jump into some rhetorical analysis of an informational text and look for elements like ethos, pathos, and logos. Are there any particular ethos, pathos, or logos that are a little more difficult than the others?
Yeah, ethos.
Ethos is when King demonstrates that he's someone we should listen to. So if you show you have expertise, that's ethos, that's creating an ethos effect on the reader. Some of the students who had struggled so far, I gave a writing focus like identify tone and identify imagery that has a strong crossover between a literary text where they're more in their comfort zone. So you're looking for specific word choices and things like that?
Yeah, and then like big tone shifts too.
Okay, are you finding those?
Kind of. We found one or two so far, I think.
Okay, good. Right. He's not going to change tone every 3 sentences or anything. So if you find a couple over the course of the letter, then I think you should be really comfortable with that.
But my question is it, it's not actually his words. He's quoting someone else. Mm-hmm. So does it still count as him employing imagery?
Sure. He's just employing somebody else's imagery. So for the next part, you're going to make a brief presentation. You're just going to make a one-slide PowerPoint. That's going to be all, just one particular slide, and this is all the content that's going to be on there. First, what did you agree on? What do you think King's main idea is? And then second, just go ahead and let us know, because we all had different tasks, what was your task for your group? And then we want you to pick 2 quotes and tell us which paragraph it's from. Those quotes, how did they contribute to the main idea or purpose? After they'd gone through the reading exercise, they would create a one-slide PowerPoint where they would include specific quotes from the text, their overall meaning, and have to say explicitly what is the connection between these quotes I've chosen and the central meaning of the text.
Okay, so our task was tone analysis. We were looking through for like words that indicated tone and phrases too, and then tone shifts as well. And our main idea was that there is no excuse for injustice. Ignoring it, in fact, only promotes it. We thought that King was urging the clergymen to take action because they were influential people in their respective communities.
The reason to have this step where students are presenting their findings is it's a moment where I'm able to assess their understanding in real time. This gives them the ability to show their thinking, share the range of ideas and findings that the class came up with, and also to have a little bit of pride in the work that they've done.
So the main idea that we came up with as a group was Martin Luther King wrote this letter to address the published statement by the clergymen to help them understand his perspective on equality and justice for all that.
But the quote that we got for the logos was, so the question is not whether we will be extremists for hate, but extremists for love. Will we be extremists for the preservation for injustice, or will we be extremists for the cause of justice?
And also it's an opportunity for the other class members to show some high quality feedback and provide some constructive criticism for their peers. So there are two kinds of feedback I'd like to see. Either kind is great. One, positive feedback is great, but specific positive feedback or suggestions for improvement. Not just blanket criticism, but if you can think of something, I know a way that I think that this could be even stronger.
For imagery, we said the quicksand represents the instability and how it is progressively getting worse, and the rock portrays stability.
I don't know, I thought the quicksand was really effective in showing the instability.
We're going to have one more piece of feedback before we're done.
Yeah, so I noticed that in it, when they were they kind of just read what was up on the board. It wasn't necessarily like elaborating on it. So, I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't quality work, it was.
The next thing I have my students do is continue to engage in the same text, but in a new way. Now they'll have a whole class discussion called a Socratic seminar. In particular, they'll be engaged in the fishbowl. To do this, I have my students set up in two circles, one inner and one outer, and every student has a partner. The inner circle will be the speakers, and the outer circle will be note takers. There will be moments over the course of the strategy where the two partners will turn and talk, share ideas, and also exchange roles, moving from the inner to the outer circle. We are just going to have the first person who wants to volunteer go, and if you would like to follow up, you raise your hand, and they will call on you, and whoever's the last speaker will choose the next speaker.
I think you can tell someone not to hate someone, but you can't make them not hate them. Devin.
I have a question about that. How would you distinguish a moral law from an immoral law? Dahlia?
He says in the text, any law that degrades human personality is unjust. Then he talks about Martin Buber and about I in and I out relationships, and I think what he means is that any law that makes a person less of a person is not a just law.
What particularly impressed me with the students is that they were engaging in genuine dialogue. They were addressing ideas of their peers, and they were posing questions and talking about the ideas of other participants rather than just each person taking their turn just saying something to the circle.
There's kind of that mob mentality. So even if someone doesn't approve of it, then they're still going to go along with it. Because they're probably afraid that people will turn on them as well.
We actually discussed a similar thing, and we were talking about how in a larger group setting, people will do something that they wouldn't normally do if they were on their own, and they'll be far more likely to act in a way that they would never even think of doing.
So we saw a lot of ideas develop over the course of the conversation. Kids came away with a more sophisticated understanding of the text because of the work that they did with each other.
I don't think that the main whole organization, because it's called civil rights, I don't think it's just towards racism, but all prejudice against people who are so-called different. I think we've come a long way, but I don't think it's gone yet because there's prejudice against people who have different sexual orientations. It's not so much towards racial injustice, but more other
I'm going a little back to elaborate on the question you asked about if it'll ever go away. I mean, I feel like the sad thing about the world is there'll always be negative influences, so I feel like it'll never permanently go away because people always have higher opinions of each other. Like, it's just like a natural instinct. It's just sad, but that's the way a lot of people feel.
Next, I gave the students a writing task. It was time for them to relate their own ideas about Dr. King's text and produce a piece of argumentative writing. So I took them to the computer lab where they were going to make an online blog with their opinionated writing.
I think I'm going to talk something about like how, especially like around in the early 2000s about with 9/11 and stuff and how everybody was really prejudiced after that.
Do you think that it still holds true today that people need to break unjust laws? Maybe an example of a time where they might need to? This was more that could be accomplished in the day, but because they were writing online, I was able to get them up and running and starting with their ideas and then finish the rest as homework. Employing these particular standards while I plan and engage in a lesson has really helped me to see the interconnectedness between all of these skills. The reading builds the writing depends on the reading. The speaking and listening engages students in the ideas and allows them different ways to share them and help develop them. So, all in all, it really makes transparent and clear some of the most essential experiences they'll have and the things that we really value and cherish as English language arts teachers.